Hey guys, I've been obsessed with the question in the title for a few weeks, mostly because of the pop-up cups and the fact that I've had to face better and better players while not having enough time to practice and stay on top of my game. That being said, it means that I can't ever really be as good of a builder, editor, or general player as others who spent 30, 40, 50 hours a week playing and practicing. Yet, I still want to do my best to compete and get high points in the pop-up cups, and found myself changing my playstyle completely to account for the fact I'm no longer capable of outplaying almost anyone. I think this topic might interest anyone here who has a hard time reaching 25, 30, 40 points during the events, or feel that they're not improving fast enough for the number of hours they're actually clocking in the game. If you're already a legendary, already highly skilled, this could help you a bit, but keep in mind who I'm addressing here. I'm by no means a great Fortnite player. My building is somewhat sloppy, my editing isn't always sharp, I don't keep up to date with all the new amazing techniques people use to break into your 1x1, and I certainly don't have Shroud's aim. Yet I've still been able to pretty consistently reach over 40 points in the cups by basically changing my entire strategy entering games. I've been watching and analyzing loads of lesser-known players that clearly have a lot of knowledge and skill, but that can't seem to make it past that 30 to 40 or even 50 marks when they clearly have the skills to do so. The main idea is to get better at analyzing who's got the intrinsic advantage in any given situation. Logistically, the only way you'll ever beat someone that is better than you is by the game giving you some form of advantage over them. When asking myself the question, how to beat a player that's better than you, I always had TFUE in mind. During the pop-up cups, when reaching 30, 35, 40 points, I got to play against him, Cloaksy, Liquid players, and many other players that are clearly much better than me. It got me thinking, in which scenarios or situations do I legitimately believe I could kill someone like TFUE? Here are my answers. Intrinsic loadout advantage. Given this is a BR game, there is RNG that comes into play, and this can certainly come to your advantage if you ever hope to beat a player that is better than you. That's the easy answer. The long answer is you need to constantly figure out what's the main strength of your loadout and how you can abuse that to ideally outmatch someone whose skill is higher than you. For example, the better player has Gold Pump, P90, Gray AR, balloons, and heals. Insanely good loadout for close range. Bad player? Tac Shotgun, Gray SMG, Scar, Heavy Sniper, heals. Insanely good long range. Given this loadout, the bad player should basically shift his entire strategy around getting a high ground position in the zone and holding it to pick off opponents from a distance. On the other hand, the player with the really bad long-range loadout is going to want to change his strategy to get up close and personal and maybe push players that are turtling. Loadout advantage goes further than that, and you need to get good and recognize what your opponent has too. For example, having a lot of shields, let's say 10 minis, is really good if you use it to your advantage by trading shots with other players. If you keep trading shots with your opponent, you can keep healing back to 150 while they likely won't have nearly as much heals to help keep up with you, and eventually, you'll be taking away their effective HP to the point where they run out of shields, and now you have a clear advantage for the kill. If you have a loadout with 10 minis, but you push players up close and personal where fights end quickly, it's much harder to take advantage of those extra shields, and you effectively minimize the strength of your build. Positioning. This is obvious and often talked about point of advantage. If you are not great at the game, positioning can be one of the easier ways to give yourself an advantage over other players. Dropping in areas where there are planes or rifts, and using those to position yourself in the zone once it starts moving quickly, can save you the trouble of having to fight and outplay players on your way inside the zone. Lots of great players will use the zone as a chance to push and pick off players. But if again, you're not TFUE, your best bet is using safe rotation methods to avoid any fighting while having to move. Also, even if you are the weaker player, being on top of a hill gives you a clear edge over any player who wants to push you. Your best bet when positioning is not necessarily to be dead in the middle of the zone, since that will usually draw you a lot of attention, but being at a high point that centers will help a lot. Let the better players fight for the best spot, top of a hill or whatever. Settle for second or third best you can find. Build. There are numerous incidents of the classic game freeze when Fortnite players are too confused and often forget to build amidst the chaos. Remember, saving your materials will do you no good if you are sent back to the lobby. Make use of every piece of material until you are out of builds. While on the topic, make sure to avoid panic building at all costs. Track your opponent carefully and place builds just before they can shoot at you. Additionally, try to take shots at your opponent during the build battle. Situational weakness. There are plenty of situations in a game where our boy TFUE is at a risk of dying, even to a bot like myself, no matter his loadout. A few examples of this. Whenever a player is fighting someone else, third-partying is the bread and butter of average players. Mastering the art of third-partying can help you rack in those precious kills and points during pop-up cups. Also, realizing when an opponent is healing is a great way to abuse a weakness. If you see or hear a player healing, pressuring them can grant you an easy kill as they need to stop moving and can't build. Other situational weaknesses include when a player is looting or farming. If a player is actively farming or looting, there's a good chance they're not paying as much attention to their surroundings, and that can give you a chance to sneak up and potentially snipe or get a few good shots in before they even see you. There are tons of other situational weaknesses. Try to practice noticing and spotting when players are at your mercy. Deal damage before they do. Most amateur players in Fortnite often hide when they spot better players in the game. Eventually, they get into an inevitable fight and lose. When you back off from a fight in Fortnite, it sends out the message that you are intimidated by your opponent or not in a state to pick a fight due to being too low on health or out of ammo, etc. Lock your target and try to deal damage before the fight even starts. This way, you have a better chance at turning the odds in your favor. Defensive power, turtling. Many players don't seem to realize that turtling, or playing defensively, also known as not trying to build battle every player you encounter, is a highly effective way to play the game. Not only are you saving precious mats for late game, but you also have the advantage over the player pressuring you. Why? A player W keying effectively puts himself at risk to secure a kill, which you can take advantage of. Firstly, if there are other players in the area, the player pressuring is at the mercy of third-partying and onlookers that might want to join the fight. If you're safely in your 1x1 while the other is trying to break in, they're risking being shot while you are safe. Also, if the player is shooting his SMG, not only can you sneak shotgun shots in between builds, the player also eventually needs to reload, which is a great moment to step out and turn the situation around. Another thing I love to do is pop-up cups. Let's say a player is aggressively pushing you, and even if you're running and trying to escape, they won't stop following you and really want that kill. A good way to deal with that, as crazy as it sounds, is to run towards other players nearby and hope they effectively help by shooting the person chasing you. At which point, you can go back to turtling, as we mentioned earlier, and your opponent is now the one in the weak spot. Mastering the art of turtling and defensive gameplay is key for less mechanically skilled players like me, who can't win most build battles. Lastly, rotations, vehicles, rifts, weakness. Something I don't see enough people do is constantly try to shoot players that are rifting or jump padding while they're in the air. Practice with your friends to get better at this, and I guarantee you'll score quite a few kills in the late game or even earlier. A lot of players use rifts as a last resort during a fight to escape. If that's the case, they're probably low on HP, and that's a free kill waiting to be taken while they're at your mercy flying around in the air. Not only that, but because players are in the sky while rifting, or in planes or jump pads, you're not putting yourself at any risk by shooting them if you're boxed in with your roof open. I recommend also giving planes a hard time when they're circling in the air. If you have enough ammo, it may seem hard, but you can sneak quite a few shots on a pilot, forcing them to ditch the plane and again be at your mercy while gliding down to safety. Conclusion: I really hope this helps some of you. I'd love to hear your thoughts and how you go about beating players that are better than you. I could learn some tricks too.